Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of A Light in the Dark. Now, in the last episode, I found myself kidnapped by a mysterious young woman who is clearly impoverished and wants to basically get some ransom money out of my dear old rich daddy. And so far, it would seem as though negotiations aren't really going very well in her favor, much to my great displeasure. Because, well, that would generally mean that if things go badly for negotiations, that will most likely mean bad shit will happen to me as a result. So, I would hope for my sake that dear old daddy will at least try to do something here to help his poor old son out. Otherwise, I'm royally fucked. So, yeah, beyond that, I'm just trying to gather some information about my kidnapper, along with finding anything I can find within the environment I'm currently trapped in here to liberate myself from the ropes I'm bound with and hopefully get the hell out of Dodge. There really isn't a whole lot here that's really occurred story development-wise, other than just some inferences that we can make about both the characters in question here, about the kind of lives that they've had. Like, for example, the rich boy who I take control of, he doesn't exactly have the best family life, because, well, his family life is practically non-existent, and doesn't seem to really actually care about him, despite the luxury lifestyle he lives. And as for our kidnapper, well, she is, well, impoverished, obviously, but the reason why, well, based on one little slip of the tongue that she gave me, I think it has something to do with suddenly being landed a large amount of debt early in her life. And so she's basically desperate to try to get rid of this problem of hers as quickly as she can and start a new life for herself. As some dialogue from herself that we saw towards the end of the last episode had more or less corroborated. Has more or less corroborated, basically. Yeah. Yeah, there really isn't a whole much I can really say here as to what happened in the last episode here, because in the grand scheme of things, I think I've really only just gotten started with things. I'm just trying to do everything I can here just to stay alive for one thing and just get as much information as I can, and so that's basically what I'm going to be continuing doing here in the next episode, starting with day 2 of the kidnapping, Silence Girl. So, that being said, we might as well just go ahead and get things started. Oh yeah, and that tile screen image, that certainly wasn't there when I started the last episode, so I also think that has something to do with some weird resolution glitch issues I was dealing with in the first episode. So it definitely looks like as though I'll have to keep the in-game resolution as for what I set to indefinitely. And I've also found out here that I experience the same issues even when I'm not actually recording anything with shadow play. So it's not like it has something to do with shadow play taking up CPU power or anything like that, and therefore causing the glitches. I just think it's some kind of weird technical issue that has something to do with maybe my computer specifically, or the monitor I use, whatever the case may be. It's unique to me, and I have no solid answer on how I can really remedy that, other than just to have it at the resolution that it is. So, I apologize for any inconveniences this might cause. So cold. I didn't feel better after I slept. Instead, I felt even more tired. I was hoping to find a chance to escape when she fell asleep. However, time passed, and she didn't show any sign of closing her eyes. Excuse me for one sec. Sorry about that. Need to take care of something. I couldn't help but fall asleep first. The last thing I saw was her lighting another cigarette. Again, you'd probably save a lot of money if you just quit. My body must have been really exhausted if I could fall asleep like that. I opened my eyes in a daze and saw an unfamiliar face right before me. I jumped back reflexively and tried to shield my chest with my hands. Yet my tied-up hands remind me of my kidnapped status. Regardless, I was shocked by this new face. I stared at the new girl before me. The first thing I noticed were her beautiful eyes. Clean, light brown, like pieces of amber. Her thick coat and dark red sweater looked pretty old. Her small body suggested she might have been in junior high, so she was clearly unfit for a place like this. I didn't know who she was, but I easily noticed a knife in her hand. She stared straight at me, but showed no signs of speaking, which somehow emitted an inexplicable pressure. Who are you? I tried to ask her, but she refused to answer and shook her head. She was on guard of my every movement with pressed lips. There was no sign of the kidnapper around. There were only the two of us in the room. In other words, a good chance to escape. Let's try asking for help. I don't think I should try to struggle. Can you untie the rope for me? Head shaking. Seeing she had no intention to help, I tried to untie it myself. Her expression vividly changed upon noticing my attempt. Don't move! As expected. Only another victim, or the accomplice, would be here. If she wasn't tied up and instead held a knife, then she must be my guard. The quiet girl and the antisocial one. What a bizarre combo. This sort of plot in a movie would have easily triggered the haters. It appeared reality could be more ridiculous than fiction. I breathed out and couldn't help but laugh out of stress. Let's consult my notes. We now have a section for the girl, but I also got this here. I couldn't rest with this cold weather. If only there was something warm. And we got girl. The young girl looked excuse me, if I could just speak today. Emaciated. She was most likely no older than the average junior high school student. With her head hung down, she looked a little scared and didn't want to talk. I had no idea why they would pick her as a partner. I could defeat someone of her size even if she held a knife. Assuming she was alone. Is there anyone else here? There would be no progress if I didn't strike up a conversation. I decided to speak proactively after giving it some thought. She stared at me tightly with no response, making one wonder if she understood. You were asked to guard me, right? Still no response. Can you untie the rope for me? I can't feel them now, And if it stays like this... She shook her head, finally speaking after being silent for a while. Big sis told me not to listen to you. So you two are related, it would seem. Her voice was light and quiet, like smoke in the air. I finally heard her speak, yet it was frustrating to hear something so pointless. So who is your big sis? Even though I'm pretty sure I know who it is anyway, I want to get some confirmation from her directly. Who is this big sis? Is she the one with long hair that kidnapped me? Where is she? I need to talk to her. After continuously asking her questions, I'd gotten not a single answer. Perhaps I was asking them too eagerly, and that made her cautious. She looked at me suspiciously, but refused to say anything. I told myself to hang in there. I had to stay calm in these situations. I took a deep breath to suppress my unease. I tried to smile to lighten up the mood. Do you have anything to eat? Don't tell me your sister doesn't allow that either. I had no strength with an empty stomach. I hadn't eaten anything since yesterday, and my stamina went out faster in this cold weather. I had to save my energy for my chance. This was a war of attrition. Either she'd let me go, or I'd give up first. Answering the factions, she put a bowl on the ground, grabbed the water bottle with difficulty, and carefully poured some into it. Here. She handed me the bowl, and then brought me a pack of crackers. Worrying on my escape, she never moved her gaze away from me. The hand grasping the knife never loosened up. Observing her actions quietly, I hoped to read her thoughts, but couldn't discern anything except stress. I drank the water with much effort, spilling quite a bit on my clothes due to my tied-up hands. My clothes were wet again after finally getting dried. The hard crackers tasted like pure flour alone, hard to swallow even with water. I knew it was not the time to be picky. I had to cherish any opportunity to replenish my strength. Noticing her conflicting gaze, I asked, "What's wrong?" Big Sis is not a bad person. She will let you go when she gets the money. So please don't move. Let's stay silent. What a reassuring statement. They kidnapped someone to an abandoned house, beat him up, and then told him they were not bad people. Sure, you might as well say it was all for charity. I doubted I would say anything nice if I opened my mouth, so I kept it shut and ignored her words. Organizing the information I could gather, I started to plan my next steps. Would the teacher notice something was wrong if I hadn't gone to cram school for 2 days? Unlikely, considering how often I skipped it. Unless it lasted long enough, but even in the worst case scenario, they would only contact the parents instead of the police. I started to regret not having more friends who would notice me going missing. Expecting her to let me go upon getting the ransom, would it really be that easy? Remembering that vague smile, I didn't feel very assured. The girl was squatting next to the wall and stared at me while hugging her legs. There was no curiosity in her eyes. as though nothing interested her here. She was just guarding this place at someone else's behest. Big sis, huh? Considering their relationship, it was unlikely she planned the kidnapping. She was most likely just an accomplice, following orders. Unlike some stereotypical bad girls who smoked or dyed their hair, she looked like a well-behaved but shy kid. At least, if I hadn't met her in this situation. So who was planning all this? Somehow I felt things weren't as simple as they seemed. That's the impression I am getting too. There were too many points of suspicion if they were the ones planning this. Even carrying me here should have been problematic for them. Also, the person she was contacting concerned me as well. Hey. I called out to catch her attention and tried to start a conversation. She was younger than the kidnapper yesterday, and with much less animosity. There might have been a chance to convince her. How did you get my information? You're a student, right? Do you know what you're doing? Excuse me. She stared at me with no change of expression. I wasn't sure if she heard me. She might even be more troublesome than the other one. I could at least guess my kidnapper's thoughts if there was some sort of conversation. I was only wasting my time here at this rate. I don't know what she told you, but this is kidnapping. I tried to sound more threatening to make her talk. There would be punishment even if you are underage, and that would involve your family too. Do you know that? They're just using you. They might blame this all on you later. Big sis would not do that. She abruptly interrupted me. How can you be so sure? Just because she was kind to you, do you think she would still be on your side by then? Finally making her talk, I tried to push forward. Has she told you her plan after getting the money? Do you really know her? Big sis would not do such a thing. You are the one who doesn't know her. And yet you know me. Okay. She interrupted me loudly and stood up all of a sudden, with her little body shaking. I didn't expect such a big reaction. Perhaps her relationship with her big sis was closer than I thought. Of course I don't know your big sis. I stopped for a few seconds and stared at her coldly. All I know is that she is a kidnapper. That's all that matters. Liar! You don't know why big sis... She raised a knife and yelled at me with her chest heaving up and down, but swallowed the word before the key part. You might want to be careful what you say, buddy. I mean, she's clearly not taking the slight implications that she's a bad person very well, as you can see here. Why then? Big sis is just... Facing my questioning, she lowered her gaze. Worrying she might get too agitated and really harm me, I decided to change the subject despite my desire to continue. Anyway, I don't get it, but you better give it some thought. I coldly ended the conversation, leaving her staring at me hesitantly. No matter how much faith one had in others, no one would stay after hearing those words. I wasn't sure how effective that was. I could only wait and see. It's not like that. Not able to retort, she squatted next to the wall in depression, mumbling with her head in her arms. Seeing her almost about to cry made me feel a little uncomfortable. but I would do anything as long as I could get out of here. Besides, they were the ones at fault here. There should be no sense of guilt involved, even if I hurt them a little. You're right, maybe there shouldn't be, but yet, well... we're human. Let's try to strike up a conversation with her. Let me look at my notes so fast. She didn't seem to have the same level of animosity as the other girl. Maybe I could convince her. And she believed her sister would let me go once she got the money. If only things would go so smoothly. I'm gonna rest a little bit first. I want to keep myself in the blue if at all possible. So, asking why I was kidnapped, why me, would probably be fruitless. Because I'm pretty sure she would just tell me the exact same thing that her big sister told me. No particular reason. So, I think asking who are you exactly would not really bear me much fruit either, because unless she were to tell me her name. But I don't think I ever got her name, from what I can vaguely recall from the demo, by asking this question. So I think I should try to see if I can get her to warm me up a bit here, because I need to try to find something warm so I can recover my strength faster. So let's say so cold. So cold. She made a sound to indicate she heard me. I waited a while before continuing to talk. If only it was a little warmer. With my movements restrained, I had no idea to get information if they didn't talk to me. To get information from her, I needed to find a way to make her talk. After all, telling her directly I want to talk most likely wouldn't work. I want some coffee? If possible, I'd like to have some coffee. Oh. Don't you also want something hot to drink? Coffee is too bitter. She said indifferently. Just when I was about to give up, she answered softly. But coca is fine. Well, that's fine by me. I'm more of a hot chocolate person myself. Okay, what did I get now? She liked hot coca. Not sure how useful this information will be later on, but maybe it'll be something. Now, let's try to get some information about you and your relationship with your sister. How long have you known Big Sis? She stared at me cautiously, as though not feeling too happy about me saying bad things about her Big Sis. You really like your sister, huh? I sighed heavily. The depression in my chest didn't lessen one bit. Yeah. She nodded without a second thought. She was only this certain when it involved her Big Sis. What if you're being manipulated? I don't want to hear that. She awkwardly turned her head to hide it behind the book and refused to talk to me further. Maybe I should have said whatever. Maybe the response wouldn't have been quite that rude. I don't know. She was unexpectedly loyal to her big sis. Imprisoned life was surprisingly boring. I couldn't do anything with tied hands, and the only person I could talk to was as silent as a rock in one corner of the room. There was no phone, no TV, no internet. The usually insufficient 24 hours now felt way too long. Yet she didn't look one bit bored. Flipping through a book from God knows where, she observed my movements from time to time. I ate the same crackers for breakfast and lunch. I also went to the bathroom once, hoping to find a chance to escape. She stood outside with a knife when I was in there, neither rushing me nor leaving. Having found nothing useful there, I left post-haste. Don't you eat anything more normal? Or do you just love crackers? I don't think it's because they can afford anything more than crackers, but dummy. She ate the same thing as me. They were cheap and tasteless no matter how long you chewed, and only served to make your mouth dry. So what are they, saltine crackers? Unless you won a year's worth of them from the lottery, there really was no reason to keep eating them. I started the conversation out of boredom. She raised her head thoughtfully. This is very cheap and lasts long. Don't you at least have soup, though? Aren't you worried about malnutrition? There was nothing but starch, let alone fiber or vitamins. Pretty ironic for something called a nutrition biscuit. Oh. Showing no concern about balancing her diet, she didn't even raise her head. Just replied nonchalantly. Hanging out with her this whole morning, she didn't give any sort of proper response except when it was about her big sis. Pretty incredible, I would say. Strangely enough, it wasn't like she cared about this big sis that much. It was more like she just didn't care about anything else. Well, I mean, if it's just her and her big sis living in a very impoverished lifestyle, I can only guess here that life in general is pretty bleak for someone like her, so there really wouldn't be much to care about by default, if things were truly that bad. Did you figure something out with my dad? No idea. Her answer without hesitation didn't appear to be a lie. However, it did trigger my curiosity if she didn't even care about the status of the ransom. No matter who you are, you must care about something, whether it be family, work, or some dream. Yet she had none of that. There wasn't even some sort of animosity against me, only caution at most. Let's try to talk. Why do you like your big sis? Hesitating a little, I decided to follow how she addressed the person in question. Because big sis took good care of me. That's it? She said no more despite the pause. Then I realized she had finished. She frowned as she stared at me. You were willing to do all of this just because she took good care of you. That's quite the burden. You must be easy to please. What the hell? If you treat her nicely, she might even kill someone for you. Kidnapping is by no means a light crime in any country. You could easily end up with more than 10 years of jail time. I finally understood why gangs like to recruit students. Around that age, anyone nice to you must be a friend, and one would do anything for a friend. Unable to retort, a bit of confusion flew through her eyes. Because Big Sis is nice, so I want to help her. Is that strange? She said quietly. Depends on what you're helping her with. It was a simple question, but with an implication. Maybe no one took care of her, except this Big Sis. Many things you take for granted aren't the case for us at all. Remembering her words from yesterday, I realized they might have some real difficulties. Now I just feel sympathy. Of course I'd feel sympathy. Only a dick would feel unmoving. Maybe they had their reasons to do this. As she said, the world is not fair. If only I could convince them to let me go. Okay, we're at noontime. Within the silence, the sudden phone vibrations sounded extra sharp. I don't see anything new. Oh. I guess this got crossed out. Unlike yesterday, the girl picked up the phone immediately. Hello? Perhaps she was asked about me, as the girl glanced at me when answering the call. Yes, it's all right. I had no idea what the conversation entailed, and could only guess from her words. Okay. It was the kidnapper from yesterday. Where could she be if she needed to call to confirm my situation? Did she already contact someone to get the ransom? Or maybe they had other bases. He's next to me. All right. The girl handed me the phone. I raised my tied hands and then shrugged helplessly. She hesitated a little, then put the phone next to my ear. At this distance, maybe I could bump into her by surprise. I could probably still overwhelm her even with my tied up limbs. Before making up my mind, I heard a voice from the phone. Hello? The cold voice sounded a little different through the phone. The noisy background seemed to indicate she was somewhere outside, maybe a restaurant or a karaoke place. Hey, can you hear me? Yup. I see you're still kicking. Sorry to disappoint. She didn't seem pleased with my greeting. Maybe she was expecting me to go into a panic and shiver in the corner. The more she wanted to see me in fear, the more I wanted to act indifferently. It wasn't really part of any sort of strategy, just some pointless show of resistance. You should know this by now, but I'll repeat it again. Don't try to run. Don't ask questions. I am watching you, and if anything happens... She paused, then left a threat. Even if I agreed to return you, I wouldn't be breaking the deal if you lost an arm or leg. Got it. I didn't even need to guess what she wanted to say. Lose an arm or leg, throw me off a cliff, blah blah blah. Hell, even agreeing to return me alive was already saintly of her. Most wouldn't even intend to keep the hostage alive. Hostages usually got silenced after the kidnappers got the money and were ready to run. I didn't plan to believe her words from the beginning. If I played too nice, I might get killed without knowing how. Is my dad paying? None of your business. Just worry about yourself. But I am worrying about myself. This kind of relates to my situation, man. Bullshit. Why would I ask about that if not out of concern for my own safety? I wanted to ask more, but I got stopped mercilessly. I'm heading back now, so stay put. That's all. Hey, wait! Before I could say anything, she hung up. Hanging up right after she said whatever she wanted. What a woman. Hearing the empty sounds of a disconnected call, I knew being mad would make no difference. But what did Big Sis say? She approached me once the call ended and asked me worriedly. But in the short period of time, I wondered what to say. Let's answer honestly. She told me to stay put, and she would be home soon. Oh. Not showing any emotion, she simply took away the phone and sat back in the corner. I remembered how the Big Sis sat next to the window, smoking, seemingly in thought, and also in patience. In contrast, this girl was way too quiet, and she just sat there holding her legs together. How much did she really know about the kidnapping? She didn't even know me, nor what to do. Her Big Sis asked her to guard me, so she guarded. Her Big Sis asked her not to talk to me, so she didn't talk to me. Whether it was about the outcome or the reward, she was clueless and didn't care. She just had faith in her Big Sis. And some impressive loyalty. Such blind trust was not far from stupidity. I almost felt bad for her. Time felt much longer when you were waiting. I even sighed in relief when I heard a sound approach. A motorcycle engine was shut down not too far away, and the closing footsteps echoed through the staircase. The noise was empty, but has certain rhythm. There was no elevator. Was this an apartment? Or some privately owned house? I could only hear one person's steps, so there was no one coming back with her. I'm back. The one who walked in was the same girl from the day before, aka the Big Sis. Same overcoat as yesterday, and her expression hadn't changed either. Welcome home. Unsure of what was going on in my mind, she looked at me suspiciously and handed the plastic bag in her hand to the other girl. Bento. Eat it while it's still hot. Big Sis. The little girl whispered something into her ear. I couldn't tell the context from this distance. The girl nodded, staring dead straight at me. I think I should brace myself. Once the girl finished, she moved towards me with the knife. She tried to check the rope, even pulling it a few times to make sure it was tight enough. I told you I didn't do anything. If I could get out of this, do you really think I'd stay here? Quiet. Ask her, then. She threw the other girl a questioning glance, which was answered by a silent nod. Her head wasn't even turned. It seemed like the bento was much more attractive than the situation here. She snorted unhappily, but couldn't find a reason to act up. She then just started to laugh scornfully. Whatever. I doubt you have the balls to try anything. You have a rich mommy and daddy arranging everything for you, from school to work. You probably even have a maid cleaning the house. You can't do shit on your own. Can you? Here we go again. This ridiculous resentment was not just aimed at me, but anyone with a better life than her. Kinda makes you wonder, if you get that better life for yourself, are you going to become distilled in self-hatred? I don't think distilled was the right word I was looking for. Whatever. What was the point of hating all these people? Would it change anything about her life? Wouldn't it be more practical if she tried to change something instead of hating? You would think so, but you'd be surprised by how stubborn a lot of people can be when it comes to just hating things instead of just trying to actually do shit about them. Where did you go? She probably would only be more pissed off if this continued, so I decided to change the subject to avoid trouble. Wouldn't you like to know, Not cutting me any slack, she raised her eyebrow provocatively. I sighed helplessly. This was really going nowhere if she kept up with this attitude. You start eating. Don't mind me. Only after she spoke did I notice the little girl hadn't moved her chopsticks despite having the bento opened, as though waiting for her big sis to start the meal together. I had dinner already. Don't need to leave me anything. She loosened her furrowed brow and patted the little girl's head kindly. There was even a smile on her face. The little girl nodded obediently. Even an outsider like me could tell how close they were. If anything, I couldn't even believe she still had such an expression in her. More questions popped into my mind upon seeing their interaction. With such familiarity, what was their relationship? She seemed close to the little girl. What was their relationship? You already know, you dimwit! The sound of water flowing in the bathroom reminded me that I hadn't taken a shower for 2 days. I still felt uncomfortable even though I barely moved or sweat. I was willing to give up half of my possessions for a hot shower and pay with my future income for a cup of coca as a bonus. The little girl was clearly starved and was quietly and happily eating the rice. She paid no attention to me. Her figure looked extra weak and small from here. I still couldn't believe she could be a kidnapper. What kind of family would allow her to do such a thing? Maybe it's because she doesn't, have a family except for the big sis. That's sort of the impression I'm getting. Whatever. Considering my own family, I had no right to criticize others. Phew. The girl left the bathroom holding her hair. She only washed her face since there was no hot water. The light shone on her face, rendering her pale complexion a little more rosy. Yet the expression on her face was still cold as ice. What are you looking at? She seemingly noticed my gaze and asked me with an eyebrow raised. Nothing, just that I hadn't taken a shower for a while. You think this is some fancier hotel, rich boy? That's probably the dumbest question you've asked me so far. I would have called customer service given such quality. Keep flapping your mouth, I dare you. Never mind. She snored with contempt, then walked to the window to lightly shake the little girl's shoulder. The little girl had finished her bento and was falling asleep against the wall, despite her best efforts to stay awake. Go to the bed to sleep. You'll catch cold like this. She nodded sleepily and climbed into the bed obediently. Not minding all the dust on it, she grabbed the bedsheet and lay down. I think you mean laid down. Maybe she was really tired. It didn't take long for her to fall asleep completely, leaving only the sound of steady breathing in the room. The girl walked to the window, opened her bento, and started to eat it quickly. Nothing from me. Tormented by the scent of food, I couldn't help but ask. You can just eat the crackers. How about just a cup of coffee? I have money in my bag. Rather than a hot dinner, I preferred some hot coffee to relax my nerves. You done yet? Ugh. I had learned that protesting wouldn't help, and now the headache was even more unbearable without coffee. She looked troubled and was just eating absent-mindedly. She kept poking the drumstick for what seemed to be no reason. Please stop playing with the food even if you're not in the mood. I can have it if you have no appetite. Hunger plus anger made me give the suggestion. So you're hangry. Hungry plus angry. I'm thinking about how to keep your mouth shut. I don't know, I think that'd be quite easy. I don't think you need to spend that much time thinking about it. I doubt me doing that would solve your problem. Though noticing her darkened look, I decided to keep my mouth shut. Piecing all the hints together along for her reaction, I could only come up with one conclusion. You couldn't reach my dad. How did... You trying to trick me? Realizing she slipped without thinking, her face instantly darkened again. I didn't mean anything. I just thought... Fearing she might lose her temper, I immediately tried to pass off the responsibility. However, she stood up suddenly. You looking down on me? If I'm easy to fool, huh? Could you find your chill? There is a small child sleeping in the room, after all. She bit her lip, staring at me with utter hatred, voice colder than ever. Not at all, I'm just guessing randomly. There must be something wrong, and I doubt the police have found out this soon. Look, Her reaction far surpassed my expectations. I tried to explain myself, but that didn't stop her from walking towards me. She walked closer and closer with the knife, eyes flashing with hysteria. Was she really going to do this? Now I was really fearing for my life for the first time ever. She looked like a cornered animal that would try anything in desperation. Don't struggle. Before she got the money, she wouldn't kill me. If resistance was futile, I decided to close my eyes and grit my teeth, hoping she wouldn't continue further. I smelled a faint scent and felt her hair on my cheek, plus rapid breathing. What's that smell? If I had to guess, cigarette breath. Unbelievably, at this moment of life or death, I was thinking about something this insignificant. Against my skin was a cold sensation. The blade was right before my chest. A simple push would bury it deep into my flesh. I opened my eyes and saw a look of pure ice right before me. Don't lie to me! The voice next to my ear was light but clear. I will say it one more time. Don't lie to me. If you look down on me, you will regret it. Her voice was calm, and the knife steady. She didn't clarify how she would do it, nor did she ask for my confirmation, yet this threat was more powerful than anything prior. All my words got stuck in my throat. My body was paralyzed to the point I couldn't even blink. She meant it. I could read the emotion in her eyes. That was pure murderous intent. No question about it. She would do it if I did it again. I'm done with folks like you. Don't think I can't. Worst case scenario, I will just die with you. No biggie for someone like me. She finished her sentence, moved the knife away, and walked back to the window. I just lay there on the ground motionlessly. My tense body was still trembling. At that moment, I confirmed something. They could end me any time. Took you that long just to confirm that? I would have figured that out from like the first 5 minutes. The notion of her not touching me before getting the money or having some backup plan meant nothing to them. At this point, she had nothing to lose. I took a deep breath as I faced the window. That's how I calmed myself down since childhood. What I need to do stayed the same. Nighttime. The desk lamp drew a long shadow from her. What had just occurred still creeped me out a little. However, since she hadn't contacted my family, there was still a chance. I breathed in deeply, gathered courage, and talked to her. I have a proposal. She continued to look out the window motionlessly, showing no interest in my question. Let me go now, and all my money is yours. It might not be much, but still 70 to 80,000 NTD in total. And I swear I will tell no one. Knowing she must be listening, I kept going on my own even without a response. You can escort me to the ATM if you want to, or do it in any manner you prefer. You want to keep this on the down low, right? Why so insistent? I used my last bit of strength to convince her. Considering her position, I tried to propose something that would be mutually beneficial. I believed that no one would risk his or her own life until there was no other choice. Now is still not too late. Think about it. The wait was so long, I thought there was no response. But she finally turned her head. There was no rage in her eyes, only exhaustion. Why should I believe you? Why should I believe you will hand me the money and never call the cops? Well, what can I do to what can I do to assure you? I couldn't answer out of hesitation. It was hard to create a situation where both sides could trust each other in the first place. I wouldn't agree to such terms if the roles were reversed. I would be the one in control once I got my freedom. She wouldn't be able to do anything to stop me from calling the cops. No answer? Then shut the fuck up and stop wasting my time. Rather than handing her fate to me, she'd rather believe in herself. All my gathered confidence grew fainter and fainter, and I was out of ideas temporarily. But if this kept going, then what can I do to win your trust? I asked with my last ounce of courage, matching her stare. Matching her stare, I could see the fragility under her cold look. She grew silent and started to ponder my question. Then a bitter smile appeared on her face. I don't know. She turned to the window and quietly said it again. I don't know. Then I'm probably gonna have to think of this shit myself then. Probably based on... Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. If I can gather as much information as I can about both her and the young girl, I can probably piece together some sort of idea, some sort of promise, some sort of something that can enable me to gain their trust. The more knowledge I have of them, the better I can convince them to do things my way. The mood is heavy. I must try to do something. Let me look at my. Oh. Okay, I don't think I need to rest, so... Let's try chatting. What do you want won't do me any good, because she's not really going to tell me anything. And I could try inquiring with her about how much her younger sister knows about the kidnapping. And asking her if she could really get out of this unscathed would just simply piss her off. It would just come off as more of a threat. So I think my best bet is just to ask about the how much she knows about the kidnapping and what's her relationship to the young girl. And then maybe just find something to observe in the environment. So let's do the kidnapping one first. How much does she know about the kidnapping? I asked her about the little girl, hoping to earn a little more information. Learn a little more, excuse me. Huh? None of your business. She changed the subject non-committedly, but then after a while followed up with, she has nothing to do with this. I forced her to help. Oh. I was surprised by that answer. I thought she would push the responsibility on her, yet now it sounded like she was protecting her. What an interesting relationship. She seems to really trust you. She stared at me, biting her lips, but her inner turmoil was clear. She knows nothing. The little girl curled up on the bed, holding the bed sheet tightly. She didn't seem to be at peace even at night. The girl sighed lightly, and then turned to me to emphasize her point again. I forced her here, and it was all my idea. My decision. She repeated herself, as though scared of involving the little girl. I got it. I replied perfunctorily, knowing that wasn't the truth. There was no way for her to be this obedient if she was forced, let alone defending her big sis. Okay, let's now ask about the relationship. So what is your relationship? They interacted like siblings, yet their ages weren't even close. I am not in the mood to chat. You better stay quiet, too. Let's stay quiet. Oh. I shut up after hearing displeasure in her voice. After what just happened, I had no nerve to make her mad again. Ah, crap. Well, too late to take it back now. Alright, let's, Wait a minute, what's this? I'm not sure what brand it is, but the smell is not as bad as I thought after inhaling it for a while. Anyway, did I just get some notes? No. They're in a blue package. What brand are they? I should try to ask about it. It might be a clue to identifying who she is. What is the brand of cigarette you smoke? Why? You want to try it out? Nah, I'm fine. Then why ask? Just found it smells special. She figured telling me wouldn't matter much, so she answered easily. Light 7. My dad only smokes these. Your dad? Your dad? He hit the road a long time ago. A shitty man who doesn't take care of his family. I will kill him if I ever meet him. Well, hey, would you look at that? We have something in common. I have a shitty father, too. In fact, he didn't even call me when I got into my little car accident. Seeing how angry she got, I found something strange. Wasn't it just contradictory to hate someone, yet smoke the same brand of cigarette? Maybe she's got some unresolved, issues involving her wanting to get some, I don't know, recognition or something. She still smoked the same brand of cigarettes as her father despite her dislike of him. Surely she was also conflicted. Yeah, I don't remember ever finding this out back in the demo, so this is definitely interesting information. It was getting late, and I still couldn't find any way to change the situation. Instead of escaping or waiting for the ransom, the safest option was to convince her to let me go. Things could still get resolved without much incident. It wouldn't be this easy once the police got involved. But how? Even though I could tell she had hesitated, I couldn't win her trust. So I had to win her trust first. The sudden vibration broke the silence. She looked at the phone screen, then jolted a little as though being electrocuted. She lowered her eyes and read the message. She raised the corner of her mouth, but didn't appear to be that happy. What is it? I had a bad feeling and instantly asked. There'll be a call in 10 minutes. Tell your dad to pay up if you want to go home. The unexpected change of events instantly froze my blood. This was way too soon. I was naive to think I still had time to convince her. The moment she reached my family, there was no turning back. The police would start taking action. The family preparing the ransom, and the culprit preparing the escape. What now? What now? I quickly went through all the possibilities in my mind, but couldn't come up with a solution. I must not stop thinking. There must be a way. Time passed second by second, and I had no time to hesitate. It's the money you want, right? Is there really no other way? Out of options, I gave it my all and just yelled at her. Not giving her a chance to contemplate, I continued after a quick pause. Let me go, and you can have all the money as proof of my silence about this. Think about it. You really think you can get the money this easily? Are you okay playing hide and seek for the rest of your life? I couldn't finish my words. Seeing her expression, I realized that was it. Under the nightlight, she looked almost like a dream, too empty and transparent to be touched. That smile couldn't hide the helplessness and regret in her eyes. Silence and immense sadness. There is no turning back. Her voice was calm, surprisingly. There was no anger or accusation, only concession in that expression. She surrendered to her hopeless life. Nothing was more convincing than that expression. So even she could express such hopelessness. There has been no turning back since a long time ago. The phone vibrated again. Seeing her pick up the phone, I couldn't say anything. I should have known. The moment the phone rang, nay, from the very beginning, she had no other choice but this. Under the serene moonlight, the cogwheel started to spin faster. And I think, if memory serves, this is exactly where the demo ended for me. In which case, from this point onward, I am completely and utterly blind as to what will happen from this point onward. I think I just repeated myself, but point is, I'm blind. I have no idea what's going to happen. Now you're just as in the dark as I am. Or rather, it's the other way around. I'm just as in the dark as you are about what's going to happen. Whatever, I'll stop talking. The girl opened the phone. The screen flashed the time. 3 a.m. There was only steady breathing in the room. The boy couldn't resist the desire to sleep after all. It's the money you want, right? Is there really no other way? Remembering his words, the determination in his eyes surpassed her expectations. Perhaps he wasn't as useless as she thought. There was no regret in her decision, only a vague note of ironic sadness. Never until this moment had anyone cared what she wanted, trying to convince her not to break the law. No more, one should take responsibility for one's life, or don't keep asking someone to help you. There was no return. Either she would get the money and pay the debt, or get arrested instead. Okay, so that confirms it. You are in debt. The girl raised her head and looked into the starry sky, standing next to the window like a statue. The stars sprinkled, like her unsettled mind. Finally, she breathed out quietly. Worst case scenario, I would just die with him. Are you thinking about your sister at all? Like, if you end up just throwing your life away, what's going to happen to her? If I were you, I would realize that and just try negotiating with him. With the guy I'm controlling, whose name I've already freaking forgotten. I think it was only said like once back in the previous episode. But yeah, seriously. I don't think you're as trapped as you think you are, is what I'm trying to say. And you should just you should at least think about who you'd be leaving behind, if nothing else, rather than what you'd be leaving behind. The quiet voice of the girl evaporated in the room, along with the cigarette smoke. Day 3. Gap between us. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut the episode off here. I guess we can figure out what's going to happen on day 3 in the next episode, and what kind of, sassy remarks I may decide to throw their way in the next episode, if I'm feeling particularly sassy on that day. Probably will. Not sure if it's going to do me any favors in the long run, even if I am ultimately trying to be honest about my feelings and responses, but, who knows? Maybe honesty will be the thing that will get me out of this whole thing alive and lead us all to something of a happy ending. Unlikely to happen, but you never know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of A Light in the Dark. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.